much. It's an honor to be here with you all. I would like to start with my special thanks to the people who organized this event. And also would like to thank the Jewish community, the Hindu community, the Mizud Freedom Organization, and Hammurabi and Assyrian Aid Society for helping and standing with the Yezidi during this difficult time, which is greatly appreciated. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Yezidi, introduction about the Yezidi religion. The Yezidis are a nation and proud people from the heart of Mesopotamia, the birthplace of civilization and the birthplace of many of the world's religion. The Yezidi religion, monotheistic and very peaceful. We believe in God without companion and God's 7 archangels. The Yezidi religion is based on humanity, mutual respect, and 4 main natural elements: the sun, the earth, the air, and the water. We respect all religion and faiths, and when we help others, it's without regard to faith or nationality. We pray to God and ask Him each morning for an end to war and for the peace for the whole world. We say our name, the Yezidi name, at the very last. But unfortunately, the radicals and extremists in the Middle East have been trying to wipe us off the face of the earth. In the last 1400 years, the Yezidis have faced 74 genocide in the Middle East, which including the recent one that began on August 3rd, 2014 by Islamic State. Most of you may be aware of the war crimes and crimes against humanity that's committed by the Islamic State that have been committed against the Yezidi, Khedar Essw in northern Iraq. The Yezidis in Sinjar suffered especially, and the Yezidi of Kocha village in particular. There are presently about 430,000 Yezidis are displaced in northern Iraq, and according to many Yezidi on the ground, more than 5,000 have been killed, including beheading of hundreds. More than 7,000 Yezidis were abducted, mostly young women and children. Since then, about 3,500 to 4,000 of those abducted ones have been able to escape somehow. Some with the help of different organizations such as CYCI and other groups in Iraq as well. So we are very grateful and thankful to those organizations who helped rescue our women and children. But there are still more than 3,000 Yazidis, women and children, and they are still in captivity by Islamic State in Iraq and Syria. In all respect, it's a genocidal campaign against the Yezidi that began August 3, 2014. We hope all and each of you will stand with us in the name of humanity, regardless of who we are or what we are, but in the name of humanity, as we all are human beings. And we also hope that our government, Canada, will recognize the truth and recognize the Yezidi genocide, as just recently it was declared by the Department of State in the US, and was declared by Foreign Affairs Committee first, and by Congress, and finally by John Kerry, which is greatly appreciated. We hope that Canada could do the same thing, because it's a genocidal. Some of you may ask how other groups in the Nineveh are coping with the Islamic State invasion. Sadly, the majority have joined the Islamic State. They were our neighbor for 10 years, 20 years, 50 years. Most of the Sunni group that include the Arabs, the Kurds, and the Turkmen, at the time of the attack, joined up with the Islamic State and killed their Yazidi neighbor, abducted their children, and raped their women. Humanitarian aid, while necessary, is not sufficient. Much of the humanitarian aid that's distributed by the Kurdish regional authorities and the Iraqi government never gets into the hands of those who need it. Some outsider observers say that as much as 90% of the humanitarian assistance has been diverted away from displaced persons. As Canadian and Yezidi human rights activists, we raise our voice on behalf of our silenced Yezidi people, women, men, and children in the Middle East, whose cries you cannot hear, whose tears you cannot see, and whose unbearable suffering you cannot imagine here in the West. Our voice has been pierced by a bullet. These women, men, and children have been forced into conversion, beaten, raped, and sold into sexual slavery by Islamic State. I am urgently asking each and all of you to ask our Office of Religious Freedom, which is very sadly the new government has been trying to shut down that office, and we hope that office could remain open. The religious freedom should be a part of the Canadian obligation around the world to help religious freedom. And our respected Canadian government to intervene in the minorities issue in the Middle East, Iraq and Syria in particular, so we can survive in peace and freedom with dignity as people. These need your urgent and immediate help and support. We must, with one united voice, ask our respected Canadian government to recognize what has happened against the Yezidi and Khedar Essw as a genocide. We are also asking our government to bring the Yezidi refugees from Turkey and Syria. So the Yezidis, we are only asking for the equality by our government. We have been attacked based on our faith, based on our religion, based on our culture. Just because we are Yezidi, we were attacked. At the beginning, they tried to wipe us off, whether by converting or killing. And I think most of you saw on media and social media everywhere around the world. So there's something we cannot hide. And as a human being, I think it's a part of responsibility for each and all of us to take an action and fight for the freedom, for the rights of as a human being. When it comes to Jewish and the deed of the land in Israel, as Yezidi, there were many Yezidi in Jerusalem. Before the war of the capture of Jerusalem in 1187, when it was attacked by Salahuddin Ayyubi, the Yazidis were killed or converted by force. After they were almost wiped from the Middle Eastern region in Iraq, Syria, Turkey, and Iran. And Tabriz is named after one of the Yazidi saints. So we still have memories of Jewish people that passed on from our fathers and grandfathers, grandparents. When they were in Iraq, in Syria, and other parts of the world, when they used to live in peace and freedom, just like brothers and sisters, just like one family. The Yazidis, Armenian, Assyrian, have faced the same genocidal campaign by the Islamic extremists in the entire Middle East region. So we think it's time for the international community to wake up, to stop this barbaric and say should be ended so the human being can live in peace and freedom. God gives us knowledge. If we use that knowledge, there's nothing we all can live in peace and freedom. The world is like a heaven and it's like a garden. So a garden is nice when there are many different flowers in it. And we believe that the ancient people, whether they're Yezidi, Christian, Armenian, Mandaean, Zoroastrian, we should be a part of those flowers in the garden, and we can live in peace and freedom. We hope that you all can stand with us, especially the churches in Canada. They have a very good impact on the government. Today we have thousands of Yazidis are stuck on the European borders in Greece, Macedonia, Balkans, Serbia, Croatia. Unfortunately, the last 2 weeks, the European decided to shut the borders so that there are still like thousands of people, they sleep outside or they sleep in very bad tents, which is very difficult, and the UN has not done enough to protect these people. We hope that even in the UN Refugee Convention, the UN itself, they don't comply with their own law and constitution in that law. For instance, the refugee, because the Yazidis and Khedar Essw, Sabian, Coptic, they are being slaughtered because based on their faith, on their religion, who they are. Not they are looking for to be a country, not they are looking for to be a president, only just they are fighting for their basic human rights as God created them. Thank you so much. The Kosovo village I was talking about, the population was almost about 2,000 people. The men were beheaded, and the women and children were abducted. So from the entire population of that village, only about 45 people survived. The rest is in captivity by ISIS, the women and children, and the men were mostly beheaded and shot on the Friday.
Okay, 2 weeks after.
Thank you so much for everyone, for the Jewish community, and the community. I will talk about my story. My story in English is not good when the Mirza helped me.
We'll do that.
Or maybe after you can, whoever's interested, they can come and see the picture. If you have any question about it.
Can't hear.
They were UN refugee in Turkey, and Masood was helping us to bring this family here. So their family, the relative found out that it's going to take a long time, and we were not able to help them on time. And they decided to go on a tugboat from Turkey to Greece. And these are the three girls, they were sisters, they're my cousins. And this is my cousin's wife and with her 2 children. And this one when they drowned into water and the Greece police found on the shore. And these 2 children, and the little one is my wife's nephew. And this is the rest of the relatives that were found in the water. village, which is only about 5 minutes driving from the ISIS control now. So we are very thankful for the help from the Masood, and we have my colleague Khaled, Amir, Majid, Wissam. We have applied for the rest of our family who remains in Turkey, and if nothing is take place sometime soon, so probably they would decide to go on a boat on to water, and we are very scared that to lose them too. So we hope that you could help us and help Masood to fundraise and try to bring those, at least our families, to Canada. And there are still like thousands of Yazidis family are stuck on European borders. They sleep outside, they sleep in tent. It's very difficult, and nothing has been done about them yet. It has been like about 2 weeks now. UN hasn't done anything yet, and there are many years they have been in Turkey for more than 2 years, but still there's no news when they're going to bring them or they're going to help them somehow. And they look at the Muslim neighbors in Turkey and other areas. It doesn't take them even like a year and a half, and then they come to Canada, US, or other European country. This is my story, and I would like to thank you so much, and I hope that you all can raise your voice to our parliament to do something.
Now we're grateful to have Saadi. Thank you, Khedar. Saadi, will you tell your story?
So, first of all, it's to be honored of me to be standing in front of you, and thank you for invitation. And we are very happy to be here today. And big thank for Masoodi communication and Jewish communication. I'm going to share my story with you, which is my life story. Like me and my family, we were happy together. After I graduated from high school, I decided to go to university. Like the government accepted me, like you can go to study at university. The situation in Mosul was very, very dangerous. Every day there were explosions, bombs. So I decided to go to north of Iraq, which is Kurdistan. I went to Erbil and Hawk. The both campus of them, at the beginning, they don't accept me. Why? Because of my religion, Yezidi religion. I went back. Me and my father, we decided to go to like the second chance. I went there. They didn't accept me again. So I come back home, and I went to the danger situation. I don't have any chance. I went to Mosul to complete my education. It's my future. I don't want to be there. So I went there. I finished my 2 years. At the third year, the students come to me. They told me as a threatened. They told me, if you come here back, we're gonna kill you. Yeah. they told me something like that. What should I do? I was with my brother at the gate of the campus of the University of Musa. So I come back home, I told my father the story. He told me, we have nothing to do. So we don't have that much money to go together as a refugee in Turkey. I decided to bring my sister, which was sick with thalassemia. Like she has to take transfusion every month, 2 bottles, 2 units of blood. So I decided to take my sister and my brother, younger than me. We just have like a budget for 3 people, and my father stayed at home. So I went there as a refugee. I waited there for 1 year and a half. The Canada's government, thank for them, they brought me, but now we as Yezidi people, we still need their help. Not even Canada's government's help, our government, I mean. We need United Nations help, we need United States help, we need Europeans help, we need your help to stand with Mazout community, that we are very thankful of them that they help us. So this is my story. I hope there is something change. Like I am one victims of the 100 students. They were with me in the university. At the same time, all of us now everyone in I don't know what happened to them. Even we were 500 students. All of them, I don't know what happened to them. I just know my friend, which is Kheddar's brother, Zuhair, he is here. I don't know anyone about the others, anything, sorry. So, there is nothing changed during the August 3rd, 2014, till now, for Yazidis people. Yeah, it's like it was 73 genocides. Now we are under the 74 genocides, and nobody take care of us. So hopefully there is something changed for Yazidi people. For like a sorry, that's it. My story. Thank you for listening.
Hi there, my name is Mark Vandermas. I'm the founder of Israel Truth Week. Before I was involved in Israel, I was involved as an activist. I guess I would call myself a rule of law activist in a place called Caledonia, where the police stood by and watched as innocent people, native and non-native, were being terrorized and did nothing. And it was disgusting. And in a way, it's kind of like what we see in our world today. We see a government that has abdicated its responsibilities, and I would look at that. You know, if I was talking about Israel, I would say, here is a UN that is refusing to help the people of Israel who are being under attack, abdicating its duties. And I think also that we look at the Yezidi people, another persecuted people, and they are under attack. And again, the UN is doing next to nothing for them. And it's really hard. So I have a history. I forget what Renanah said I was. I guess, I don't know. I really hate it when people are falsely accused of crimes that they haven't committed, or people. I really hate it when innocent people are being attacked and nobody will lift a finger. And some of us can't do a lot. I wish I could do more, but I have been able to speak at a few events, and I'm grateful for that. But I am an activist at heart. So we have to figure out what is the to-do list, what is the takeaway. Maybe some of you can donate some money to help these people. The Mazout Freedom Foundation are doing great work with them, and I'm really, happy about that. But you know, they're trying to get a meeting with the Minister of Immigration and Refugees, John McCallum. So I think on your chair you've got these forms here. At a time when they're bringing in all of these Syrian refugees, you would think that Minister McCallum would really like to talk to somebody who knows about some refugees who pose absolutely zero security threat to our country and who are actually almost outside the UN system. This is something I didn't understand. This is how they're being failed. They're not Muslims. I had a young fellow upstairs who just couldn't quite grasp the idea that they're not Muslim people. And so they're subject to persecution where they live. So the camps are run by the Kurds. Some of the Kurds are good, some of them are not so good. But again, they're Islamic as well. So the Yazidis and the Christians are afraid to go into those camps. Even the people that go into the camps, I've spent some time with Mirza, I've spent time with some of his people, and one of them showed me a document from a relative, I believe it was, where their interview by the UN was scheduled for, I think it was 2022. And this is the point. I want you to leave here and understand this, that if you think that our government and the UN have it all under control, these people who have done nothing wrong, who have never been aggressive towards any other people, whose daughters and wives are being raped and sold into slavery and all manner of bestial things done to them, have nobody helping them. Now it is, and fortunately, they ran into the Jewish people. And I'm not Jewish, but one of the things I love about Jewish people is that they have huge hearts. And they understand that they are lights to the world. And that's why I'm so grateful. I mean, we have to embrace the horror, but let's embrace something good. And the good thing is that these Jewish people have stepped up to take time away from Israel to advocate for these Yezidi people. As an activist, I do training sometimes, and I remember one of the ladies up here was at my training, and one of the lessons I like to teach, if you want help, give help. And sometimes, I've had a Jew in Caledonia, we really needed help there, and I had one Jewish guy say, well, I'm busy with Israel. Once I'm finished with Israel, I'll come and help you if I got time. And he doesn't realize, this isn't a battle against Yazidis. This isn't a battle against Jewish people. This is a battle against fundamental human dignity and honor and justice. And every one of us, whatever it is that you can do it. I understand you can't do everything. I can't do everything that I would like to do for the Yezidi people, but I'm pretty sure that everybody in this room could pick up a phone and dial Minister McCallum's office and say, excuse me, Mr. McCallum, because you'll talk to a secretary, an assistant, we think you should meet with the leaders of the people who are helping the Yezidi people because they've got no one to speak for them. And our government, this is Canada, our government needs to speak for these people and do something for them. And there's the phone number right there. And here's the email address you can contact. Now her name is Doris Epstein, and she's another wonderful Jewish woman who has stepped up to help the Yezidi people. Okay, this is a fight for survival of decency, and if you can do that, that would be great. If you can write a check for $20 or $1, I don't care, give it to Joffrey here, or Renanah here, whatever it is that you can do, take a little action. And at least when you go, when you're sitting on your rocking chair, 20 years from now, 50 years from now, you're going to be able to say, I didn't sit there and do nothing while they were cutting the heads off of little girls and raping them. I was not silent, and I hope that's what you'll take comfort in. You may not be able to stop it. If I had all the money in the world, I would go do what I had to do to stop it, but I don't. So the power of one person is unbelievable, and that's a lesson I learned, that just go out and do one thing that you can do today and help them, and one of them's calling the minister. Okay, thank you so much. And I'm honored.
Marsha, I'd like to ask you to come up and speak on behalf of children of Holocaust survivors.
Right. Thank you. So just to continue the metaphor that Mark started about light, he said that we're a light unto the nation, and it's our job to prove it. I'm a child of Holocaust survivors, as Renanah said. We Jews went through the fire, and those of us who were not obliterated, we made it to the other side, more or less whole, and some of us in fragments. My parents reconstructed a life here and a family here, but it took my parents a very long time, if ever, to feel like part owners of Canada and not merely guests. I think they were sometimes afraid. After all, at one time, they were Polish citizens, weren't they? How is it for you and I today? Are we part owners of Canada or guests? Whether descendants of survivors or Canadians for generations, we are in an excellent position now here in Canada. This life we have been blessed with, because we are Jews, must mean something. And today, we are in a position to do everything in our power, and we have the moral authority to enact a sea change for the Yazidis. We come forward, especially when others do not. We are in a position to show courage and to stand side by side with those in peril and to help them make it to the other side. We are part owners of Canada, not guests. No quotas, no ghettos, no fire here. Judaism instructs us to connect deeply and to care deeply for one another. So today, we help the Yazidis to live, and we elevate our souls. And then, look, tomorrow, the Yazidis are part owners of Canada, and may they stand beside us Jews, and they save others, and so on, and so on. And so the world may continue to exist. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll speak briefly, and then we'll ask Joffrey to speak on behalf of Mazud. In 1943, after 2 million Jews had already been slaughtered, a famous writer named Ben Hecht wrote a play hoping to stop the planned slaughter of 4 million Jews who were left. And from the play called We Will Never Die, I will read just a few lines. Dead Man says, in the town of Suzdal in Poland on the morning of September 3rd, which is the day set aside for atonement, we were all praying to God to forgive us. All our village was there, our bakers and millers and harness makers. All our wives and mothers and sisters were there, and every child old enough to pronounce the name of God was there. Above our prayers, we heard the sound of motor lorries. They stopped in front of our synagogue. The Germans tumbled out, torches in hand. The Germans set fire to us. When we ran out of the flames, they turned machine guns on us. They caught our women and undressed them and made them run naked under whips. Sorry. I apologize, I made a mistake. Okay. Remember us. Another dead man comes forward. Remember us who were in the Ukraine. Here the Germans grew angry because we were costing them too much time and ammunition to kill. They devised a less expensive method. They took our women onto the roads and tied them together with our children. Then they drove their heavy motor lorries into us. Thousands of us died in this way, with the German military cars running back and forth over our broken bodies. Remember us. And now a dead girl. Remember us too, who were not killed by the Germans, but who killed themselves. We were the daughters who lived in Warsaw. We were the daughters of good and pious people. We were young and raised in virtue. The Germans took 106 of us and brought us to a hotel. They gave us perfumes and white robes. They told us that at nightfall they would take us to a brothel and that we were to serve the Germans there. We waited all day. We anointed ourselves with the perfumes and put on the white robes. And when the sun was setting, we knelt and prayed, and each of us poisoned herself and died. The Germans came, but none of us went to the brothel. There were many thousands like us. Remember us. Narrator. There are 4 million Jews surviving in Europe. The Germans have promised to deliver to the world by the end of the year a Christmas package of 4 million more dead Jews. And this is not a Jewish problem. Second narrator. It is a problem that belongs to humanity. It is a challenge to the soul of man. First narrator. In allowing the slaughter of millions of helpless people, in standing by without utterance, we who live in the lands of freedom become honorary members of the murderers. Our silence is part of their massacre. And that's how I would like to connect to why I'm involved and why I think all of us should be involved. When we were after Mark came to a rally to support Israel a year and a half ago, we walked down to the rally to support the Christians in the Middle East. And then on the way home, we met some people. I think it was you, Khedar, wasn't it? It was you we met? Yeah. And a few days before, I'd seen on the TV these people who were rushing up to a mountain, and they were starving and they were running from ISIS. And I thought, it can't be true. I don't need to get involved. It's too much. I hope someone will take care of it. I don't want to get involved in this. It can't be. And then we met Khedar and his son, and they said, who are you? And we said, we're Jews. And we said, who are you? And they said, we're Yezidis. Our women have been taken 3 days ago. We don't know where they are. They're enslaved. They're being killed. And I said, oh my gosh, it's really true. I can't run away from this. And then I tried again. I can't get involved. I don't have time. And then I found a picture of this girl. This is her wedding day. You see her? And this picture next to her is after she ended her own life. Because like the girls that I read to you from the Holocaust, she called her husband and she said, after being kidnapped, I won't let anyone else touch me. And she killed herself. In fact, the ISIS had to take away the scarves of the Yezidi girls because they refused to be raped and to be destroyed, have their souls destroyed this way, and they killed themselves instead. So I'm asking all of you, we need help. And now I'll ask Masood to please speak.
I'd like to thank Renanah for her very important points, for Mirza, for the other speakers. My name is Geoffrey Garfield. I'm the Executive Director of the Masood Freedom Foundation. I'm the Executive Director of the Masood Freedom Foundation. And today I want to focus on one thing. I want to tell you why being pro-Yazidi is being pro-Israel. Nothing more, nothing less. And I want to start off with a story about a Yazidi friend of mine. We're going to call him Edward, because he doesn't want me to use 5 minutes? Great, okay. And Edward he's a man in his 30s now. He was living in northern Iraq during the Second Gulf War. The coalition forces came in and they liberated northern Iraq, which was a no-fly zone, as you may remember. They liberated Kurdistan. And they didn't have much help from the local people. And the Yazidis, who speak Arabic and who speak Kurdish, and many of them who speak English, began to volunteer left, right, and center. And they put themselves in harm's way as translators. When you go to war in a foreign country, you have to speak to the people on the ground. And since most American soldiers do not speak Arabic and Kurdish, the Yazidi came forward. Not 1, not 5, not 10, but 20, 40, 60. Hundreds of young Yazidi men and some Yazidi women volunteered to work with the coalition forces. Without the Yazidi, without that translation, without that intelligence, thousands of more people would die, and perhaps Kurdistan would be involved in a terrible conflagration and civil war. So this is just one person. I called him Edward, that's not his real name. He eventually became an American citizen, and he told me the story, the hidden story, the secret story of these Yazidi warriors. So the first point I'd like to make in the very few minutes left in this day is the Yazidis are not only victims. The Yazidis are warriors. The Yazidis are soldiers in a just cause. And what follows from that is, since we are on the side of right and not might, although we use might for right, and we're on the side of democracy, and we're on the side of the Judeo-Christian ethic, and on the side of universal values, is the Yazidi are our allies. And sometimes things go well with your allies, and some things go badly with your allies, but you never desert your allies. And so, it may sound like I just gave a presentation on why the Yazidi are allies of the Canadians who used to be in this fight. Unfortunately, they're not the United States and many other people of the countries of the Willing Coalition. But the Yazidi are more deeply connected to the Jewish people in many, many ways. First of all, let's take a step back. Let's go to the Second Gulf War, of course, when Saddam Hussein, a horrible Arab Islamic dictator, was raining chaos in his own people, gassing the Kurds, remember gas chambers from our own history, and sending missiles to Tel Aviv, the Galilee, Jerusalem. And the Yazidis were targeted by Saddam. They were pulled out of their villages, they were relocated. Sounds familiar to people in Jewish history. And very often when you're pulled out of your villages and you're relocated, that's just the step before genocide and annihilation. So let's not think, just because Saddam Hussein is no longer with us, that he didn't have plans. He had plans for nuclear weapons, he had plans for chemical weapons, and he used them. And he probably had plans for the Yazidi. So the Yazidi are not only our allies in war, and that's a politically incorrect thing to say, but I'm very proud of it, and I think they should be very proud. They're not just victims, but they've also suffered from the same tyranny, from the same hatred, from the same despotism that afflicts the Jewish people and the state of Israel, which is the representative of the Jewish people in the 21st century. 2 summers ago, the Yazidi were largely living a relatively quiet life in the mountains of northern Kurdistan, in Sinjar, and their apparent Kurdish protectors, the Kurdish regional government and their Peshmerga, deserted their posts, and as Mirza and others have pointed out, many thousands of men and boys were slaughtered and killed, and many thousands of women were sold into slavery and raped multiple times. The newspapers and the television is filled with the stories of these women. 3,500 women remain. Some people, like Steve Maman in Montreal, are doing things to try and liberate them. Other people from within the Christian community, who shall remain nameless right now, have liberated 300 to 400. And this is a burden upon us all. As Jews, we move forward to celebrate the celebration of Passover, which is the fundamental narrative of freedom. So during this Passover, I'm going to ask you to consider putting aside a little time and energy to think about the Yazidi. And at the end of this very short presentation, I'm going to give you some handouts. You can read about Project Abraham if you really want to get involved with us, because the Yazidis were and are living in the land where Abraham himself came. These are volunteer needs that when you're fighting a political war, you need many different kinds of people doing many different kinds of things. These are petitions, and these are ways that you can donate online. So there's many different things that you can do immediately in the next 2 minutes when I stop speaking. As you've been very, very patient today, you've heard many, many people speak. I sometimes wonder to myself, what is harder, speaking or listening? I think listening. As Mirza points out, the Yazidi are part of the tent of Abraham. They're monotheists. They have their own scriptures, they have their own rituals, and they descend, in their own words, from Adam. which is apparently who the Jews and everybody else descends from. So in that sense, we're related at a deep theological and actual level. And as Mirza pointed out, throughout history, the Jews have been in Iraq for 2,500 years. They're no longer there, but they were there in masses in Kurdistan at least 80 years ago. And as I've gotten to know Mirza and Khedar and Saadi and Khalid, they've begun to share with me little snippets. Oh, my grandfather hid Jews in 1936 when the Iraqi government was trying to put everyone there. Oh yeah, my great aunt, she hid some Jews. And I suspect that the same was the case vis-a-vis the Jews during the times where the Yezidi have been persecuted. So, again, why is being pro-Yezidi pro-Israel? Why is being pro-Israel pro-Yazidi? Because ISIS does to the Yazidi what they would like to do to the Jews of Iraq had they stayed in Mesopotamia.
I'd like to mention that the donations to Mazud are tax deductible. I don't know if we have any more time, but perhaps one or two questions. Mirza, would you like to take one or two questions?
And of course, for me, as a question for Jeffrey or Martha.
Anyone else? Anyone with a question?
Who's in charge? Renanah,
Okay.
the chairperson?
Yeah, thanks. Okay.
I just have a question.
What is your relationship with the, with the new government of Kurdistan that is happening right now? Because, I mean, I'm not entirely understanding what is happening in the northern part of Syria under the establishment, I would assume, of New Kurdistan, which will happen, I assume.
Thank you for the question. For 34 years under Saddam's regime, the Yazidis were imposed Arab ethnicity by force. And after the 1991 Gulf War, when the West helped to create an no-fly zone for the Kurdish people, the Kurdish government of KRG has followed the Saddam's footsteps. They imposed the Kurdish ethnicity on Yazidi by force. Just on March 31st, the Yazidi forces rescued 50 Yazidi, mostly women and children, from Syria, from ISIS in Syria. And then when they brought to Iraq, the Kurdish forces told them, you're going to face severe consequences if you don't give it to us so we can get credit and use for their propaganda in the West. Thank you.
So I'm told that we need to end now, but please come and take the Mazud materials. Please come and speak to our Yazidi colleagues. And Colleen at the back is another Yazidi friend. Thank you so much for attending.
It's a